Hello everyone. Ahead of our Christmas special this Saturday, I thought it might be nice to give you a little bit of background to the recently opened Dartmoor line which we'll be taking to reach the start of our walk at Okehampton. If railways and history ain't your thing, feel free to run away now. Okehampton station was opened in 1871, the same year that the Royal Albert Hall opened in London, and the year of the first rugby international match, with Scotland beating England 1-0. Unlike the 14-year marathon that is Crossrail, it took just 3 years for the line to be extended south across the spectacular Meldon Viaduct in 1874, joining up with the branch line from Launceston to provide services all the way through to Plymouth for the first time. And this acted as a useful alternative route to the seawall at Dawlish, which opened slightly earlier in the 1840s. Further routes followed in the 1890s as the railway boom continued, and taking people from Okehampton through Tavistock and the picturesque Tamar Valley. 30 years on from this, and tourism was really getting going. So the London and South Western Railway introduced the Atlantic Coast Express, taking people from London Waterloo to Devon and the Cornish seaside resorts for the first time, stopping off at Okehampton along the way. Okehampton's heyday was in the 1950s and 60s, when there were some remarkable car transporter services, taking people from Surbiton, just outside London, to Okehampton on summer Saturdays. But of course, these are things of the past, with cars clogging up the motorways instead. Services to Okehampton remarkably survived the initial cuts made by Dr. Beeching in the 1960s, which instead claimed the line beyond to Lidford. This survival was despite Okehampton only having 4,000 people and the service usage being in decline following the rise of aeroplanes and foreign holidays. But Okehampton was still on borrowed time, and the last service was on the 3rd of June 1972, and it was met with a tearful people from the village, from the town of Okehampton, and also some railway enthusiasts as well. After that, the station fell into decline. Weeds took charge and the bricks crumbled. But it's not the end of the story, of course. Steps towards revival began way back in the 1990s, with local authorities joining forces to restore the dilapidated station, and then also a YHA opened in the old goods yard just outside. When British Rail sold its nearby quarry firm at Meldon, the buyers enlisted the help of a specialist company to reintroduce passenger trains as demand for the quarry ballast had declined. And so began the seasonal summer Sunday trips from Exeter once again, alongside heritage services along the short section that was kept to Meldon Viaduct. But the people wanted more. In 2014, a campaign began to revive passenger services running daily to Okehampton all year round, and special trains such as the Royal Oak were organised, running from London Paddington to Okehampton to prove the business case of reopening the line. The last heritage services ran on Christmas Eve 2019, and the line was then purchased by Network Rail, who began a programme of repairs and renewal to get the line up to modern standards, ready for the grand reopening on the 20th of November this year. And so here we are, one day to go. Our attraction for the day will be a 2-car Class 150 diesel multiple unit, and there are 85 of these little things trundling around the country, built between 1986 and 1987 by British Rail Engineering Limited at their works in York. They're powered by a Cummins 286 horsepower engine, and they have got a maximum speed of 75 miles per hour. One of their defining features is a feisty rev-up sound, which is common across all of the trains in the Sprinter family, which were built in the 1980s. If the driver's in a hurry, they'll ram it into power notch 7, which is the highest power notch, and it will sound like an absolute beast. They've also got a Voith 2-stage hydraulic transmission, and the first stage is the torque converter stage, where the engine will rev up, and then you'll have a 2-second gap before we start moving as the oil fills the converter. Once we hit 45 miles per hour, oil will magically move into something called the fluid coupling, and this causes the revs per minute to fall slightly, and so it's in line with the speed of the train, and we will be whizzing along nicely at that point. A slight tangent, I didn't mean to talk about the actual train itself, but there we go. Thank you for listening to this tale from the rails, and I look forward to seeing some of you on Saturday.